Dino was a marque for mid-engined, rear-drive sports cars produced by Ferrari from 1968 to 1976. Used for models with engines with fewer than 12 cylinders, it was an attempt by the company to offer a relatively low-cost sports car. The Ferrari name remained reserved for its premium V12 and flat 12 models until 1976, when Dino was retired in favor of full Ferrari branding. Named to honor Ferrari founder Enzo Ferrari's son and heir Dino Ferrari, the Dino models used Ferrari racing naming designation of displacement and cylinder count with 2 digits for the size of the engine in deciliters and the third digit to represent the number of cylinders, that is 246 being a 2.4-liter 6-cylinder and 308 being a 3.0-liter 8-cylinder. Ferrari street models of the time used a 3-digit representation of the displacement in cubic centimeters of one of the 12 cylinders, which would have been meaningless in a brand with differing numbers of cylinders. The Dino 246 was the first Ferrari model produced in high numbers. It is lauded by many for its intrinsic driving qualities and groundbreaking design. In 2004, Sports Car International placed the car at number 6 on its list of top sports cars of the 1970s. Motor Trend Classic placed the 206/246 at number 7 in their list of the 10 greatest Ferraris of all time. History. The Dino marque was created to market a lower-priced, affordable sports car capable of taking on the Porsche 911. Ferrari's expensive V12s well exceeded the 911 in both performance and price. Enzo did not want to diminish his exclusive brand with a cheaper car, so the Dino was created. The name Dino honors the founder's late son, Alfredo Dino Ferrari, credited with designing the V6 engine used by the marque. Along with famed engineer, Vittorio Jano, Dino influenced Enzo Ferrari's decision to produce a line of racing cars in the 1950s, with V6 and V8 engine designs. History shows that Alfredo Ferrari did not have a hand in the actual design of the V6 motor that made its way into the Dino. Ferrari wished to race in the new 1.6L Formula 2 category in 1967 with the Dino V6 engine. However, the company could not meet the homologation rules which called for 500 production vehicles using the engine to be produced. Enzo Ferrari therefore asked Fiat to co-produce a sports car using the V6, and the front-engined, rear-drive Fiat Dino was born. It used a 2.0L version of the Dino V6, allowing Ferrari to compete in the category. At the time, the thought of using a mid-engine layout in a production car was quite daring, although the design was common in the world of sports car racing. A mid-engined layout placed more of the car's weight over the driven wheels, and allowed for a streamlined nose, but led to a cramped passenger compartment and more challenging handling. Lamborghini created a stir in 1966 with its mid-engined Miura, but Enzo Ferrari felt that a mid-engined Ferrari would be unsafe in the hands of his customers. Eventually he relented, and allowed designer Sergio Pininfarina to build a mid-engine concept for the 1965 Paris Motor Show, but demanded that it wear the Dino badge alone. The 1966 Turin Car Show featured a refined Dino 206S. The Turin 206S was a closer prototype to the actual production version. Response to the radically styled car was positive, so Ferrari allowed it to go into production, rationalizing that the low-power V6 engine would keep his customers out of trouble. Dino 206 GT. The production Dino 206 GT was designed by Leonardo Fioravanti at Pininfarina and built by Scaglietti. It had the soft edges and curving lines typical of earlier Italian cars, unlike its angular successor, the Bertone Design 308 GT4, which had the straighter lines and sharp edges seen most boldly in Bertone's later Fiat X1/9. The 206 GT used a transverse-mounted 2.0L all-aluminum, 160 HP at the 8,000 RPMs readline, 65-degree V6 engine with dual overhead camshafts and a 9.7:1 compression ratio. Torque was 138 pounds-foot at 6,500 RPMs. The crankshaft featured 4 main bearings. Induction was via 3 Weber 40 DCN/4 two-barrel carburetors. The 206 GT was the first car sold by Ferrari which used an electronic ignition, a Dinoplex C-capacitive discharge ignition system that was developed by Magneti Marelli for the high-revving Dino V6 engine. It was also the first Ferrari product to have a direct rack and pinion steering. The 206 GT frame featured a lightweight, 1,980-pound, aluminum body, full independent suspension, and all-round disc brakes. The 206 GT had a 90.0-inch wheelbase. The 206 had a top speed of 146 mph. 152 were built in total during 1968 and 1969, in left-hand drive only. The same 2.0L engine was used in the Fiat Dino Coupe and Spider, produced during the same period. The conversion of the Dino 196 racing engine for road-going use in the Dino was entrusted by Fiat to Elio Lampredi, to whom Ferrari owed so many great engines. Lampredi, interviewed in the early 1980s, noted that, "things didn't work out exactly as Ferrari had foreseen." Ferrari had counted building the engines at Maranello, but Fiat's management insisted on taking control of production, to avoid any breaks in the engine supply. Fiat quoted 160 horsepower DIN for the Fiat Dino and Coupe copyright, and in 1967 Ferrari, presenting the first prototype of the Dino 206 GT, claimed 180 horsepower. This, however, was not the case. Both engines were made by Fiat workers in Turin on the same production line, without any discrimination as to their destination, and all were exactly the same. 150 units were simply taken from the first production batch at the beginning of 1968 to power the Dino 206 GTs. Jean-Pierre Gabriel, writing in Les Ferraris de Turin, notes that, La déclaration de Ferrari ne repose sur aucun fondement technique. Ferrari's statement had no technical basis. However, as always, it was certainly a savvy piece of marketing by the commendator. Later Fiat Dinos also used the 2.4L engine, although significantly fewer were produced with this motor. Dino 246 GT and GTS, calls for more power were answered with the 2.4L Dino 246. The motor was a 65-degree, dual overhead camshaft, 9.01 compression ratio, iron block with alloy heads. The European motor produced 195 bhp, and was available as a fixed-top GT Coupe or, after 1971, an open Spider GTS. The American version had an exhaust air pump, and timing changes which created 175 bhp. The GT had 3 Weber 40 DCNF/6 or 40 DCNF/7 carburetors. For the 246 a new version of the Dinoplex ignition was deployed, the more compact Magneti Marelli AEC-103A system. The 246 Dino GT weighed 2,380 lb. The 246 Dino GTS weighed 2,426 lb. The body was now made of steel to save cost. The 246 Dino had a 2.1-inch longer wheelbase than the 206, at 92.1 inches. The height of the 246 was the same as the 206 at 43.9 inches. Dino 246 production numbered 2,295 GTs and 1,274 Spiders, the latter being built from 1972 to 1974 only, for a total production run of 3,569. 3 series of the Dino were built, with differences in wheels, windshield wiper coverage, and engine ventilation. The Series I cars, 357 of which were built until the summer of 1970, used the same center bolt wheels as did the 206. Series II cars received 5-bolt chromodra alloys and clap-hands wipers. The Series III cars had minor differences to gearing and fuel supply, and were built at a much higher rate as sales in the United States commenced with this version. 1,431 Series III Coupe Copyright S and 1,274 GTS cars were built. The 246 had a claimed top speed of 146 mph, although in July 1971 a road test by Britain's Motor magazine reported a top speed of 148 mph, which compared favourably with the 136 mph achieved by a recently tested Porsche 911S. With a 0–50 mph acceleration time of 5.5 seconds, the Dino narrowly outperformed the Porsche again, although the Porsche was narrowly the winner on fuel economy. The manufacturer's recommended UK retail price of £5,485 was higher than the £5,211 asked for the Porsche. For comparison, both cars were retailing for more than the equally brazen though in other respects very different Citroën NSM, at £4,700. The Dino's 2.4L V6 found its way into a number of other Italian performance cars after its application in the 246, most notably the Lancia Stratos rally car. There were some minor differences in trim for various markets, the most obvious being different marker lights on US market Dinos. Group 4-style flared wheel arches were optional, as were seats from the 365 GTB/4 Daytona, the pair often ordered in conjunction with wide, sound-cast Campagnolo alloys. Dino 308 GT4. The 308 GT4 was produced from 1973 to April 1980. Initially branded Dino, the 308 GT4 was Ferrari's first V8 production automobile. The 308 was a 2+2 with a wheelbase of 100.4 inches. The 308 was designed by Bertone. With its angular wedge shape, it looked quite different from the 206/246 from which it was derived. The 308 GT4 V8 had a 90-degree, dual overhead camshaft, 2927 cc's motor with 4 Weber carburetors which produced 250 HP. The V8 block and heads were made of an aluminum alloy. The compression ratio was 8.8 to 1. The American version had a timing change and an air pump. It produced a modest 230 HP. The GT4 weighed 2,535 pounds. The 308 GT4 wore the Dino badge until May 1976, when it finally got the Ferrari Prancing Horse badge on the hood, wheels, and the steering wheel. References: Buckley, Martin and Rees, Chris. World Encyclopedia of Cars. London, Arness Publishing. ISBN A1-84038-083-7. Gabriel, Jean-Pierre. Les Ferrari de Turin. Now registered trademark Mez, Editions du Palmier. ISBN A2-914920-25-3. External links: Club Dino Italia Ferrari, Fiat, Lancia Stratos, Dino UK Ferrari, Fiat, Lancia Stratos, Dino Register, Jalopnika Euro. Pictures of what appears to be a Ferrari Dino mule. Car Advice. A Euro picture of a Ferrari Dino undergoing testing on a racetrack.